Good morning. My name is Jim Stanger. This is one of my videos on quick news to do with IVF. This one dates from round about the 1st of December. In this quick video, I'm going to talk about the implications of mix-up in the IVF lab, babies made to order, complications of having add-on treatment, once again commitment for more funding for IVF, and the legal issues for IVF users. Okay. So this one's come from Australia, and it's basically just a follow-up of other stories. This one's from MS News. The mix-up, which took place during a routine embryo implantation procedure, came to light in February 2025 when the birth parents sought to transfer their remaining embryos to another clinic and noticed inconsistency, that is, they weren't there. According to a report by the ABC, the woman had undergone IVF treatment at Monash IVF, but the embryo implanted into her uterus was not her own. As a result, she carried and delivered a child genetically unrelated to her and her partner. The worst of all fears, but entirely understandable. The legal experts say that the case presents a complex and unprecedented legal dilemma. Under current Australian law and law in every other country largely, the woman who gives birth to a child is presumed to be the legal mother, regardless of the genetics. This means that the birth parents, despite having no biological connection, may be legally recognised and potentially live in the genetic parents without any parental rights. There are presumptions in Australia about the birth parents being the legal parents of the child, said family creation lawyer Sarah Jefford, speaking to ABC News. But whether the genetic parents want to come forward and start a discussion about that, then we'll have to wait and see. And it's almost as if there'll have to be a law that allows for the transfer of parental rights from birth mother to genetic mothers to clarify things like surrogacy, etc., like that. This one is about having unintended consequence of having peripheral work for IVF. And there's a lot of add-on stuff which is done in IVF, and there's a lot of criticism that none of it is justified. Here is a tragic case of an Indian origin businesswoman who sued a London fertility clinic after suffering a stroke and vision loss, which she alleges was caused by an intensive IVF bootcamp treatment, the Daily Mail reported. As part of the treatment, she underwent a one-off add-on IVIG immunotherapy designed to regulate the immune response. I presume she was having some sort of recurrent miscarriages, etc. The legal action contends that the ARGC and the leading clinician failed to fully inform her of the heightened thrombosis risk linked to IVIG treatment and overstated her chances of success, thereby failing to obtain proper informed consent. Of the clinic and the doctor deny any wrongdoing, insisting the client was fully informed of the risk and disputing that IVI caused her stroke, the London-based tabloid reported. The point here is that in many add-on treatments, often the clinics do not even get consent for using that particular treatment. And if they do, it's poorly informed. And clients, of course, will grab at anything which gives them a better chance of pregnancy. The point here is that the clinic needed to produce a document signed by the woman that she's been fully informed and understands the risks. And unless that's signed, the clinics will be vulnerable. So the point here will be the clinics, if they're introducing new treatments, should get informed consent from the client before they do it for their own legal safeguard. This is going to be one of a recurring theme. I'll probably have hundreds of these going forward. But here is a clinic in a province in Canada announcing can be more than $1.5 million for IVF treatment in Windsor, Essex, which is in Canada. The provincial government has announced more than $1.5 million to expand fertility services in Windsor, Essex. Every family deserves the chance to grow, and this investment shows our government's commitment to making that dream of a reality for more people in our community come true. By expanding access to fertility services close to home, we are easing the stress and reducing wait times for family who rely on support. This story basically demonstrates how IVF is increasingly becoming a method of choice for having children. and that the cost of going to major centres is a huge impediment for access to the service. So clinics everywhere are being encouraged to produce more localised services, such as here. And one of the consequences of that is that smaller independent clinics that provide a localised service benefit in having a small number of patients and good hands-on treatment, focused treatment, but also suffer from higher costs due to small, tough client turnover. And the last one is about IVF users face uncertain legal landscape. This came from a state report website in the States, and I've just captured a few items from which I thought indicate the concept of the legal eddies that flow around an IVF clinic. So in this case, it says IVF is increasingly at the heart of a nation's culture wars, and it's an area where the law remains unsettled. Although only 2% of births annually are the result of assisted reproductive technologies, I think it's about 3 or 4. State courts continue to grapple with questions like ownership over rights and embryos. And here, for instance, this illustrates the issues are largely state and not federal. In Australia, we had the same thing where a lot of states have had all sorts of laws about donors, etc. And there's a push now in Australia to actually have one federal law that covers all the states. But in the States, in the United States at least, most of the laws are state laws rather than federal. So in 2024, the Alabama Supreme Court made headlines when it held that frozen embryos used in IVF qualified as children for the purposes of the state's wrongful death laws. The case, LePage versus the Center for Reproductive Medicine, was brought by 3 families whose embryos were destroyed because the hospital patient accessed a storage facility, removed the embryos from the freezer, and dropped them. The decision that would-be parents could sue over the wrongful death of extrauterine children led IVF providers in the state to pause services and prompted the state legislature to pass a law insulating IVF providers from civil and criminal liability. And of course, everything is self-evident here. One is that you need to have areas such as cryopreservation that needs to be very secure, and also the concept that an embryo which is just an embryo, has life legal status is horrendous for everyone working in IVF, because so many embryos, only about 1 in 8, 1 in 9 embryos will ever form a baby. So you're talking about putting legal status on an embryo which it will never ever form a child. I think that is the issue. So recent state cases surrounding IVF underscore the legal uncertainty around the issue. At the federal level, there is little law on IVF. The most robust statute, which requires IVF clinics to report their success rates, lacks a rigorous enforcement mechanism. Members of the US Congress across the ideological spectrum have promoted bills protecting IVF, but none have passed. All this makes for an explosive mix. There are more than 1.5 million frozen embryos in the United States today. Conflicts between couples and between patients and providers are inevitable, and neither state nor federal law provide much guidance about what should happen when a struggle begins. State courts would be on the front line for the US conflict in the American wars over reproduction. And anyone listening to this video will recognize that this applies to every country involved in IVF, that there is now frozen embryos, and they're so much part of the IVF technology that their legal status needs to be defined, and everyone needs to be quite clear where their liability lies, particularly when embryos are lost. And the last one is babies made to order. Sorry, my watch has woken up. Babies made to order. Noor Siddiqui is the founder of Orchid, a genetic testing company that gives parents the power to protect their children before pregnancy begins by isolating potential monogenic diseases, these caused by mutation of a single gene, and polygenic disorders where the combination results from multiple genes produce an outcome that in effect promise a perfectly healthy child for life, which is neither realistic nor human. In fact, the opening banner of the firm's website touts its mission, which reads as a mandate, have healthy babies, which of course, well, are going to be healthy for the genes they're testing from. So that clearly is not viable. The moral imperative is clear. Create your children laboratory's petri dish and have each screened by ORCID, which can sequence over 99% of the child's DNA, or potential child. This is the embryo, not the child. You can then receive a complete genome report on each embryo of any illness, birth defect, disease, neurodevelopment disorder, adult and pediatric onset of cancer that is likely to develop at any stage of your chosen child's life, or delivered to your smartphone. The price tag is $2,500 per embryo. What about the person that has 20 embryos? Heavens above. So the ORCID manager or representative flippantly answered with a quip. She is clearly used in marketing pitches many times. Sex is for fun. ORCID and embryo screening is for babies. The author makes a point that then admits that, yes, I don't want to quote that to you because I thought it was ridiculous. He was extremely right because it is so much anti-human. We all know sex is much more than just fun, but fertility treatment turns this fruitful love into another commodity to be customized. In ORCID's world, children are not a gift to be received with wonder and curiosity, but another product to be optimized in order to fulfill adult wishes. We have Amazon to thank for that. We don't need to pervert human reproduction in the same way. You need to go and look at my video on polygenic testing to realize that this is a really difficult area for IVF, where couples will spend more money on genetic testing embryos than they will in their creation. And they'll be left with a dilemma that no embryo will be free of any risk. And is asking people to make decisions about which embryo they should like. And in reality, there'll be no embryo that's perfect. So every child they have, they will already know their predisposition. It is a sword hanging over their head. And that's my lot for this little news segment. My name's James Danger. I'm an embryologist with 50 years experience. I'm not a medical person, and this information is not medical advice, but it may help you in knowing what questions to ask about your doctor. If you like what we're doing, subscribe. And if you like what I'm doing, tell everyone on your social media. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible to spread the news of what I'm talking about. Leave a comment and press like if you like what I'm doing. And at this point, I'd just like to make one last thing. I also have a website. No one is perfect, of course. No one's altruistic. A website at fertaid.com, which is an online EQA program and training program for IVF in embryology and andrology. You may access and skim and see what it's about. I think at this point, I would like to say that's enough news today. I think I need to go and have breakfast. I wish you all a good day.